Hello and welcome, one and all, to more of the Dark Library Goes Over Kamen Rider Saber. This time we're talking about Episode 2, and I also want to say Happy Kaiser Day, because this might not go up the same day, but I'm recording this on September 13th, which for Kamen Rider fans, especially if you've seen Fies, is known as Kaiser Day, to celebrate Kamen Rider Kaiser. It's kind of funny that we're talking, it's Kaiser Day, and the episode that's about this season's secondary writer also premiered, well, not premiered, it premiered yesterday, but it was subbed for the English audience unofficially to see it today, which is Kaiser Day. Anyway, so we're talking about today's episode. Today's episode is the introduction of Kamen Rider Blades, aka Rintaro Shido. The name Shido is kind of funny to me as someone who likes Persona 5 and Rintaro. I'm just thinking of Gentaro from Forza right now with that name. So his name's a chocolate reference for me. But I'll say this: the name Blades, that kind of annoys me because Kamen Rider Blade exists, and look, I get it. They needed it. They kind of wanted another name that meant sword, without just calling him Kamen Rider Sword. But it's kind of dumb because they just put an S at the end of Blade, and now he's a new Kamen Rider. On top of that, the S implies he uses two swords, and he only uses one in his base form. It's like, come on, series. You better get a power-up that lets him use two blades, because his name is Blades, instead of just sticking to one sword, because that's a bit of a waste, if you ask me honestly. Anyway, we begin where the last episode left off. Blades walking in with his blue lion, riding his blue lion into Toma's bookstore. It turns out he's not doing it as like a threat or a show of force. He's just basically doing like, I read that it's rude to walk into your house with my shoes on in this world. And he's like, that's still rude if you're walking a line. He's like, I'm sorry. And he puts his line back in the book and just walks to the house with his shoes on, I guess. Does confirm in my head at least a little bit that the bookstore is also Toma's house, which is still kind of funny. Anyway, from there, Rintaro asks for the Brave Dragon book back, Wonder Ride book back, and Toma says no, because it's important to him for some reason he can't really remember right now. He doesn't get, so basically like, what do I do? I need the book back. It's kind of dangerous for you to keep having that thing. And then he gets a call on his phone, which he later turns into a bike, so it's sort of like the build phone in a way. Anyway, he gets a call on it to take him to headquarters, and we're introduced to this sort of Logos in a way. We're introduced to Sophia, who's kind of the navigator, or the one giving orders around to the swords of Logos, basically telling them what their missions are and whatnot. And, so, she's important in a way, but not as important as you think she would. But anyway, she says that basically the Swords of Logos are here to stop the what are they called again? The Megida, who were officially name dropped this time around. They're officially name dropped as the Megida. And so apparently a part of the city from last episode wasn't fully brought back and is still trapped in the book world, or trapped in the space between the two worlds in the book form. So, though the Megida are still writing their little book with their hover hand things, which are weird. So Blades so Rintaro and Toma go into the book world again to fight against them, and May travels alongside them because she gets her bike, crashes into the pair and goes into the book world with them, and they fight a bunch of ant monsters and a grasshopper monster. Which is kind of funny considering last season was a grasshopper. Anyway, they fight against the monsters, and Toma and Rintaro end up having to leave because the monsters escape, and May gets hit with the grasshopper's attack, which is a sound-based attack that gives everyone a headache around it. So they go back to save May, and then basically Toma and Rintaro go to the Swords of Logos headquarters, which is located in the North Pole. And basically Toma asks, what the fuck? She's like, when the damage is done to the world, it becomes permanent, and a book is made, like an ultra book is made. And so, forget that explanation. So the bad guys are trying to make alter books for some reason, which can only be made by destroying the world. Toma basically affirms his resolve to fight against evil, and Rintaro is also somewhat inspired by that and decides to help him. And this somehow awakens Rintaro's bike for the season. And we actually get a really interesting bike segment because, Rintaro and Blades are on their respective vehicles. I forget what Blades' vehicle is called, but, they head off on... they head off and, fight against the monsters and all that kind of stuff. And it's interesting to see because it's all in CGI. Like, it's a completely CGI scene. Like, this was going to be a CGI heavy season, but this entire segment where they're on the bikes is mostly CGI. Like, there are moments where it cuts back to the suits, but the entire segment's mostly CGI. And it's okay. It's like, Kamen Rider CGI, but basically Toei CGI in general has never been the best thing in the world. But I found this CGI okay. It was really good. Like, they're getting better with it, and that's what I appreciate. It's like, it's an acquired taste, basically, and I honestly do like it. I also like the fact that we got an extended bike sequence instead of the bike just being used for traveling around. Like, I imagine like every season so far we've had like one extended bike sequence in the season, normally when the bike is first used in the season. So maybe we'll get another one, especially because Blaze is his own vehicle. I kind of hope we do, because I honestly do miss the times when Kamen Riders, use their bikes. Even if we do have to have them be almost completely CGI scenes, I think it'll be worth it to, put the rider back in Kamen Rider. That feels weird to say out loud. Also, we get rider kicks. Like last episode, we didn't have a rider kick for Saber at all. And this episode, we do get a rider kick. Like, people were debating if we get rider kicks this season, because it's all about swords. But we got a rider kick. That's the finale. But we also got another form debut with Blades using the basically Jack and the Beanstalk book to get that form. He also gets the Peter Pan book basically at the end of the episode, because both the monsters had them inside themselves. Because when Calibur went and betrayed the Swords of Logos to seal the book, he took a bunch of Wonder Ride books with him, and apparently Megida are using the Wonder Ride books to power up their monsters in a way. I mean, it's not confirmed yet, but that's what it looks like. Or they're just using the monsters as a way to draw out more of the Swords of Logos. Anyway, so they have that moment in the Swords of Logos, and basically Rintaro decides to help Toma because Toma wants to help protect people and stop the Megida, basically because they're attacking people. He hasn't met any of them yet. He has nothing personal against them. He just wants to stop them from hurting people, which is pretty admirable. Again, Toma's a pretty likable character. He so far is just a nice guy, which is fine for right now. He's a nice guy with a mysterious past that you can't really remember, and that's Toma. And then Rintaro, like, for so long, we've always had antagonistic, or at least somewhat antagonistic secondary riders introduced early on. Like, the only one I can think of that's a major exception, even of the early introduced secondary riders, is Cross Z Banjo from Build, because his whole arc of becoming a Kamen Rider was about him developing as a character until he was able to become a rider. But Rintaro is very different. He's not antagonistic at all. He's really, from the get-go, he's a kind of pleasant person. Like, there's this whole moment where he's like, I'm not suspicious, and it goes close up of his face, and it makes you think, that's hella suspicious. But no, he's just a nice, pleasant person who maybe wants sugar. Like, he seems really interested in May's sweets, because, like, before they go into they make a Doraemon reference with the Anywhere Door joke, and that's kind of funny. Does Toei animate the Doraemon anime? I don't know. I might look it up later, but yeah, they make an Anywhere Door joke. And so when he's in that scene, Rintaro notices May's sweets and kind of wants them, but he kind of resists the urge to eat sweets. And later on, he's like, no, a knight must be sound mind and not resist temptation, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, but sugar's good for the brain, so may I have an eclair? Because May brings some eclairs later because she wants to help out with the boys And Rentaro's like, no, you're a normal Homo sapien. Like he brings that line up. No explanation about what exactly he means by that yet. Hopefully we'll understand what he means by that soon. Like what separates what Rentaro calls a regular Homo sapien from whatever he's supposed to be, because so far he just looks like a regular person, outside of the whole magic book thing. No, I mean magic book and magic sword thing. And I didn't even mention it, but the episode ends with Kamen Rider Espada, Kinto Fukuyama, showing up and basically going like, "Oh, hey, Toma." So he might have some connection to Toma's mysterious past. Although he's not the focus of the next episode. The focus of the next episode is the introduction of Kamen Rider Buster Ryo Ogami. My god, finally an easy name I can say. Ryo Ogami. Ryo with the O, not Ryu with the U. Ogami. It's interesting because he's a father. Like, we've had older men as Kamen Riders before. Like, the most prominent one I could think of is the first person to use the birth suit. I'm blanking on his name right now, but I love him. The Kamen Rider Birth. Like, he was specifically a slightly older gentleman because he was a doctor and all that kind of stuff. But I think Buster might be the first Kamen Rider we have had to be a father to a young child. Like, I can't think of any Kamen Riders. I mean, there's technically one of the Amazon Riders. In a way, he's a father, but it's kind of weird and only makes sense if you've watched the Amazons. But he's a father, but it doesn't really count. So yeah, this is the first Kamen Rider that I could think of to be a father in the show, and I kind of love that. And he carries around a giant Buster sword, so his name's Kamen Rider Buster. So, but we'll talk about Kamen Rider Daddy next episode. Oh god, I saw that joke on Twitter or something. It's like, he's Kamen Rider Daddy, and I was like, oh god, I'm gonna call him that for a video, aren't I? Anyway, so for this episode by itself, this was a fine follow-up to episode 1. It honestly feels like the two episodes were meant to be merged together for like an hour-long special for the opening, because it honestly feels like that, because we get more information about the world and the setting and all that kind of stuff in this episode and then in episode 1. The pacing is still really fucking fast, which I guess is fine. It's kind of annoying, but still it's fine. Like, they just jump from them leaving the book to them in the North Pole, and no, we don't see May for the rest of the episode until the very end of it. So it's like, did you guys put May in the bookstore? I mean, you had to go to the bookstore to get to the North Pole, so what'd you do with May? I mean, it's not a big deal because May is pretty much a joke character right now. Like, her joke is basically being over-enthusiastic about the whole fantasy world thing, and also trying to get Toma to keep to the deadline. I mean, it's fine for a Kamen Rider girl, but I don't think she's going to get that much plot relevance, especially early on. Maybe down the line she'll get a character arc, but so far she's just energetic and likes keeping Toma on task, which is fine. Again, she reminds me of Akiko from Double, with all her hyper energy kind of thing, which a lot of people are divisive on Akiko. A lot of people are divisive on Akiko. I'm on the side of liking Akiko because of the energy she brings to Double and the whole dynamic she has with Shotaro and Philip. So I don't mind May here. Like, she has a really fun dynamic with Toma. She needs some more time with Rentaro. I imagine her bribing him with sweets a lot. But again, I like May. I like May so far. She might tank. She might go downhill. I like all these characters so far because they're all interesting. Toma's a good person. Rentaro, he has this whole "I'll be a knight" thing going about him. Like, he's all trying to be honorly and keep to the rules and all that kind of stuff. But he does have these little moments. And are kind of cool. And I haven't mentioned it yet, but let's talk about the Blade suit, honestly. So one of the biggest things about the Blade suit is that it has this giant lion head poking out of the chest. Like, how the Saber suit has the dragon head on the arm, which kind of looks like Yeomon when you look at it for too long. Yeah, so Blades has a lion head coming out of the chest, and I kind of want to make a Leomon joke, but I also don't want to make a Leomon joke because that would mean Rentaro would die. And I like him too much for him to die right now. Maybe later on he could die for drama, but right now I want him around. I don't want the Leomon curse to hit Kamen Rider 2. Anyway. So he has this giant lion head sticking out of the chest, and it was kind of fictitious in the photos. like when you saw the set photos or whatever for the suit, the promo photos for the suit. But in action, it's pretty cool. He doesn't really do a lot with the chest thing, as you think he would, but it's fine. It really does. It's still just a design element thing. You know, the whole different body parts from the different books and where you're placed on the belt. Although they don't really explain why Toma puts his to the side and Rentaro puts his in the center. They don't really explain that. Like, what would happen if if Rentaro just puts his book to the side one day or something. No explanation so far. I imagine it's just an instinctual thing with the book right now, but it's still interesting to think about. We get our first double transformation, and it's really cool looking. I'm not a giant fan of the whole stock footage transformation scene thing. I might get there one day, but I'm not really that big a fan of it. I like the more dynamic transformations. Like, if the giant book just appeared behind them when they transform, that'll be fun enough for me. Not the whole giant library full of fire or water. Just the book being behind them, and that would work for me personally. But you know what? Series is gonna do what series is gonna do. So, overall, pretty good episode. Not really so much to talk about in terms of plot. Again, we got a further look into Rentaro, who's different because, again, so many seasons, secondary writers introduced, antagonistic, and then becomes an ally early on. We saw this with Fuwa in 01, like he was antagonistic against Aruto early on, but rather quickly, I forgot what episode it was when they did the whole Go to Daybreak Town thing, but it was like episode 4 or 5 or something. It was a really early episode of 01, and almost rather quickly became somewhat friends with Naruto. Like, he wasn't antagonistic towards him anymore. Gates, that took a while, and Zio. What was before Zio? I already talked about Banjo. Before Zio. Oh, fucking Brave. Brave and X8 was really antagonistic towards X8 until way late in that series. But he was kind of tsundere for most of the season. Again, so many times we've had antagonistic secondaries, but Rentaro's was like, oh, hi, I'm just super helpful. And a knight and all that kind of stuff. And super honorable. Oh, let's talk about Rentaro's vehicle, because it's been since Ghost, since a secondary writer has had their own vehicle. I think it's been even longer since they had their own vehicle that wasn't basically a recolor of the main writer's vehicle. But I honestly do like his dune buggy thing. It's a really cool looking. It's a cool looking vehicle with the guns on the front. Like, I don't imagine it'll get a lot of stunts, but it would be just cool to see. Also, we get his rider kick, and it's not as impressive as the Saber rider kick, but it's still a fun rider kick. I also do love the fact that throughout the fight, he's also commenting on Toma's progress in the fight, like, that's actually pretty cool and stuff like that. Like, you're loving this too. You're loving having someone to play the fight with. I also noticed the fact that the monsters, that they even name dropped that the monsters for this week were based on the old fable of the ants and the grasshopper, because there were ant monsters and the grasshopper monster. Does that mean the golem from last episode was also based on something? I just didn't know what it was. And considering the fact that this is a season about books, most likely yes. Espada is all about Arabian Nights and all that stuff. Like, when he shows up in the bookstore, he's riding on the magic carpet at the end of the episode. So it's like, oh, this is this guy. So the monster is also based around books and fairy tales like the writers are. And what does that say about the Megiddo guys? We don't know yet, because again, we still don't have a lot of answers, but it is an interesting idea for design schemes for the monsters. So yeah, that is Saber. Ultimately, I came away liking this episode. Oh, I also didn't mention we got the first alternate form of Saber with the Jack and the Beanstalk book, and I guess next episode he'll use the Peter Pan book. Also, it looks like this season the writers will be able to use the other book powers, or at least they'll be able to use the other books along, not just leave the books for the main rider to use, which is always a point of contention when they have a similar like power source. Like, why not just share the power so you can all have multiple forms? But looks like this season they're going to be able to do that. Like, I know the logistical reason why they don't just have, like, for example, a Fua suddenly using one of Aruto's progress keys as because they don't want to make another suit. Like, let's say Aruto just hands Fua the Flying Falcon key so we can fly a flying enemy for whatever reason. They didn't want to make a Force Riser suit that could fly. That wasn't, the B one. So it's like, well, just don't do it then. This season looks like they are able to do that, or at least in some of the scans, apparently knowledge of them using at least one of the extra books is there. So, that's good. I forgot which one Blades was supposed to use. I know Espada is supposed to use like the Hedgehog book, which that's kind of fun. Like, we've had 2 seasons in a row with Hedgehog themes, forms, or at least weapons in a way. So again, in the episode, that's Saber. I'm looking forward next week to Kamen Rider Daddy. Maybe we'll get some more look at the source of Logos. And before we head out, I want to talk about the OP and ED, because again, it's been since Hibiki since we had an ED. I like them both, but I think I might be a bigger fan of the ending theme more than the opening theme, which feels a bit weird. Like, I like Almighty, but it feels like like Realize was a hype thing. It was a hype theme. Like, it was a super energetic theme. Almighty feels like a more chill. A hype theme, like a more chill, good time hype theme. Like, not a hype theme, but a more chill, relaxed theme, even though it does have the same energy of hyping you up for the episode. But I don't know what the ED's name is, but I honestly think it does a really good job. What's it? Oh, the ending theme is just called Kamen Rider Saber. The only thing is Kamen Rider Saber, which is funny because I don't think we've had a season that just has the name of just has the name of the writer be the name of the song outside of outside of Kuga. Because Kuga's opening theme was called Kamen Rider Kuga. Alright, so again, that is Saber for this week. Again, fun episode, really enjoyable. Saber so far is different, but it's not bad. Like, it's a very different season, but I don't feel this is a bad one so far. Like, no, the opening episodes typically are the ones that have the most, trying to draw the crowd in of them. Like, you saw this with 01, saw this with Zio, saw this with Build, all that kind of stuff, and then they kind of chill out in the middle. So far, it's been a fun ride to get to the middle of the series, and, Espada's introduction, and the introduction of Kamen Rider Daddy next episode, we're going to keep that train rolling. So, I'll see you guys next week, and again, Happy Kaiser Day.